Hello and welcome to the first semi-final of the 7th Wars. Now if you're wondering what happened to the first 6 and the start of the 7th, then you're stupid. I didn't film the vast majority of it. And also, why have I called it the 7th Wars? That's because it is based off of Robot Wars. But if I call it Robot Wars, it's far too nerdy. Now we originally had 60 robots in a similar arrangement, but not the same at all to what you're seeing on screen right now, arranged into 10 different heats. Each of those heats will have one winner, which means that this 60 in our unfilmed rounds will whittle down to the last 10. And these 10 robots are split into 2 semi-finals of 5. Each of the 5 robots will fight its other 4 competitors exactly once. If they win by a knockout, they receive 3 points, and obviously if they lose, they get none. And if the timer on the fight goes to 3 minutes, that means it will go to a judge's decision. If you win by a judge's decision, you get 2 points, but if you lose, you still get 1. The 2 high scoring robots from each semi-finals will go into the final 4 in the final, where we will decide our 7th Wars champion. And now let's meet our 5 robots. First up we have the 14th seed Rusty, which had a pretty simple time in their heat. They won the 3rd Wars, but haven't been able to quite recreate that success since. Then we have the 2nd seed Biteforce, 2-time runners-up, but never official champion. Could this be their championship? Now we have our 15th seeds Beta. After a surprise runners-up in the 5th Wars, they lost round 2 in the 6th, so they'll be looking for redemption. Then we have the 11th seed Duck, known for their drive issues, but very good at controlling. You better watch out for them. Last and probably least, we have Redshield, the only robot in this semi-final to have never made the top 3 in any major or indeed minor championship. Despite this, they were able to defeat the 13th seed and former champion Firestorm 8 in a tense judge's decision in the heat final. They might not be as bad as they seem. And now we cut to our wonderful little scoreboard where we're going to be keeping score. And our first fight is Rusty versus Biteforce. This should be fun. 3, 2, 1, activate. Apologies for only having one static camera per fight, which means that you can't really see some of the corners. Okay, one channel off. Along with just generally commentating, I will be explaining what's happening in the corners that you can't see, obviously only from my own memory. And it will cut to live commentary from past me. Oh, the camera just doesn't follow in that corner. Oh, disappointing for Rusty. That unfortunate driving down the pit from Rusty does mean that Biteforce wins the fight. 3 points to them, leaving Rusty on none. Our next fight is Beta versus Duck. Ooh. 3, 2, 1, activate. When I say Duck has control issues, I mean it. It cannot go straight, so it has to crabble. You see Duck putting their weapon down there, and then they just fail to get it, and they get pushed around by Beta. Now both of these robots have something in common, the fact that if they had any other driver, they would not be at all successful. Beta appears to have their axe hooked on the arena sidewall, stopping them being mobile, and that will count against them in control points, despite the fact that they're free. And it appears that Beta has lost one of their panels in that exchange. That is another thing that is bad for them. Obviously, 2 of Duck's removable panels are their back wheels. And when there's only one off, it is really debilitating to Duck. They can barely move if they only have one wheel off. Oh! Now it wasn't quite captured by the camera, but Duck has used their beak to pry off one of Beta's panels, nearly getting off one there again. That would have been bad. Panels. Hit. Now if Duck is unable to take off that last panel, or if a robot doesn't drive in the pit, we both lost 3 minutes it goes to a judge's decision, and that will be explained later. That's the problem. And here we see Duck actually pushing Beta and controlling the fight like they are known to do. They're continuing to do this until they sort of leave the corner. So we are seeing Duck's beak is unable to properly get under Beta's panel to get rid of it because the wedge shape just forces it up with the ground clearance isn't low enough. This is why Beta is sometimes successful. That's what makes Duck so invincible, because they've got two. Now Duck is incredibly lucky in the semi-final because they've got 2 Axebots they have to fight, and Axebots, because the weapon is so precise, they cannot ever get to those tiny wheels to cause proper damage to them. So they have a massive advantage in those kind of fights. Very close to Beta's last panel there. In the last 10 seconds of the fight, Beta has almost had their last panel taken off by Duck, but not quite, so it is going to go to judge's decision. Cease! Now, although I did say that I would explain judge's decisions, I don't feel I need to right now, because it was quite obvious that Duck won. And obviously that means that Duck is now in 2nd place in the leaderboard with 2 points, and Beta's in 3rd. And now we move on to our next fight, which is Rusty versus Redshield. 3, 2, 1, activate. And luckily, because I wasn't actually fighting in this fight, I was able to use my hands to move the camera, so you'll actually be able to see what's going on. This is really good. Yeah, you do have that. Now Redshield does only have 2 panels, and due to Rusty's tracks, it's going to be difficult for them to push him around. So to be honest, it's a game of survival for Redshield. It is impressive that Redshield has actually made it this far. However, Redshield was very dominant and pushing around Firestorm 8 in their heat final. And that is Rusty using their axe to remove one of Redshield's panels. Redshield countering that, pushing Rusty and mounting them onto themselves. And then Rusty now responding with several axe shots, not really effective though, pinned into the corner. It was one of Redshield's, that makes so much more sense. They're on 1 panel left, this might not be good. Oh, last panel, cease! Rusty's win, now putting them in joint 1st on the leaderboard with Biteforce, leaving Redshield still at the bottom with 0. The next fight is Biteforce versus Beta. 3, 2, 1, activate. Oh, and that is Biteforce taking off Beta's panel nearly immediately. This is the 2 most recent runners-up going up in a 1-on-1. That was Biteforce there taking off all 3 panels in about 10 seconds. That's, yeah, Beta in the pit. Yeah, that makes sense. Cease! That decisive victory over Beta means that Biteforce is now in a clear lead of 6 points. It's pretty much impossible to stop them now. And now we'll see if Redshield has any longevity against Duck. 3, 2, 1, activate. Redshield showing that they are very competent against Duck, now pushing them. Luckily, in this fight, unlike versus Rusty, Redshield appears to have greater pushing power, but that doesn't appear to be that much of an issue for Duck as they have taken off a panel. Lower ground clearance though, with Duck has lower ground clearance with that beak though. Not right then. Oh, very close to taking off that panel. Oh, excellent pin by Redshield. You do have to let me go in a minute. And if this goes to judge's decision, which I doubt it will, that will be control points for Redshield. And more control points. This is not looking good. Duck keeps making the same mistake, which is to raise their weapon whilst they're in a collision, which allows Redshield to go right up against them and pin them against the wall. And these kind of mistakes will be very costly if it comes to a judge's decision. And we just saw there Duck pushing Redshield successfully for once, very close into the pit, and now they're being pinned against the side wall. Very bad for control. Control points is where Redshield shines. However, it appears that Duck is being more aggressive as we near the final minute of the fight. Obviously, Duck's more damaging by far. And this is Duck pushing Redshield very close to the pit. That would have been very bad for Redshield. Large hit there, despite no weapons. Is it just me, or has Duck's drive problem worsened throughout this fight? See them now as they turn to the right. That's bad. We're about 30 seconds left. Duck is still unable to take off this last panel, and it is embarrassing for them. Having achieved 3rd place in the 4th Wars and 2 All-Stars. Being pinned again as 1C. This decision was so difficult that I actually changed this in editing. So I'm going to have to run you through it. So basically there are 11 points that are sort of shared between the 2 robots. 5 of those are for damage, 3 for control, and 3 for aggression. Now, Redshield was incredibly controlling and incredibly dominant throughout the entire fight, so they get all 3 points for control. They were slightly more aggressive than Duck, so they get 2 points for control, and Duck gets 1. When you don't include damage, it's 5 to 1. So you could say that Duck did all the damage, Redshield didn't do any damage, so Duck gets 5 points. However, as Duck's drive system appeared to deteriorate throughout the fight, that means that Redshield technically does get 1 damage point, leaving the score 4-1 in damage to Duck. So the totals is 6 to Redshield and 5 to Duck. So Redshield wins. And now for the next fight, we have a rematch with Rusty taking on Beta. 3, 2, 1, activate. So we've got the 14th and the 15th seed fighting off here. Oh, Rusty going very close to the pit. Very close. This doesn't... Oh, good deflection from Beta. Beta's axe is really, really good at messing with Rusty. That will probably give them some control points. Rusty not being very aggressive and not really controlling their robot very well. These two have actually met before in the penultimate round of the 5th Wars, when Beta somehow defeated Rusty and was immediately killed by Hypershock. Oh! Rusty mounted on Beta. Can Beta do anything with that? They choose not to. Beta being still unresponsive. Very good push, very good pin from Rusty. You're going to have to let him go. You're going to have to let him go. That will count for control points for Rusty. If it goes to judge's decision, of course. This is Surprisingly good block from Beta. Both robots not really being able to damage the other. Rusty just sort of sliding off, going close to the pit yet again. And Beta trapping Rusty. But Rusty is actually entrapping Beta, pulling them near to the pit. Does Rusty know what they're doing here? Can they do this? Soon we're going to have to go with an unstick if they can't undo this. Going to have to unstick them. Well, now we did go for an unstick in the end, so shown here, where Rusty proved that they could unstick themselves, so we just reactivated and nothing was ever wrong. Rusty has Beta in yet another chokehold and appear to have let them go. And Rusty has lost their chokehold over Beta. This could be quite difficult for both of them to control themselves. Rusty off the floor. Rusty cannot control themselves. This is actually an advantage for Beta. Beta pushes Rusty into the pit. Cease! And this win gives Beta 4 points, sending them from last place to second. Can this title be usurped in our next fight, where Duck fights Biteforce? 3, 2, 1, activate. Both robots rather tentative at the start. Duck is very aware that Biteforce is the only robot in the semi-final with any chances of taking off those vulnerable wheels. But Duck, with its massive wedge, is not willing to let that happen. Duck several times now being pinned against the sidewall by Biteforce off camera. Now being pinned on camera. Pinned again. Duck has still not learnt that lesson to not raise their weapon when in a collision, which just allows them to get pushed like it is shown here. Duck's really losing here if this goes to judge. Oh my god, first bit of damage going on here. Duck taking... Surprisingly, Duck is actually losing control but winning damage. This is very unusual behaviour for them. Other than in their fight against Redshield, obviously. Can they take off that wedgelet? It doesn't look like they can. But nice and controlling for them. It appears that what's happening here is that Duck is pinning Biteforce somehow. Being pinned again, being pinned again, and again. Being chased around the arena by a surprisingly dominant but not damaging Biteforce. This fight is actually yet another rematch from the 4th Wars. Again, in the penultimate round, which is essentially the semi-final, where Biteforce defeated Duck and Duck achieved 3rd place. Usually Duck's beak has been an advantage against opponents like Biteforce in the past, because they've been able to wedge their beak in the wedgelets and sort of pry them open. Whereas this time round, Biteforce has been able to use that as a method of controlling Duck by jamming them into the wedgelets rather than the other way around. No. Oh! Duck near the pit. All very close to the pit there from Duck. That could have been bad. Duck appears to be attempting to lure Biteforce into the pit, but it doesn't appear to be working. In the last 5 seconds of the fight, this is going to be a surprisingly close one. Cease! Now, in this fight, Duck was incredibly damaging, and they didn't appear to have a deteriorating drive problem. It was just a problem from the start. So they got all 5 damage points. Biteforce was significantly more controlling than Duck. Duck had no real control over the fight. However, Biteforce was not incredibly aggressive, which means that Duck does get one of those aggression points, and that adds up to 6-5 for Duck, mostly due to that damage that they did Duck wins. And now Biteforce is back all ready for our next fight, this time fighting Redshield. Right, 3, 2, 1, activate. This should be Biteforce's easiest fight here, with Redshield already losing one panel. Collision there, right on the panel, but nothing gone. Redshield circling Biteforce and not actually doing anything. Redshield making literal circles around Biteforce and just sort of making circles. Redshield avoiding Biteforce's weapon. And cease, they're gone. All panels off. This is probably one of the most impressive performances from Biteforce that we've seen in any tournament, I'd say. I've already said cease, haven't I? Cease! That fight putting Biteforce in a very clear first place with 10 points. And coming up, a proper grudge match between Duck and Rusty. 3, 2, 1, activate. Rusty versus Duck is a tale as old as time. The most famous meeting, the heat final in the 4th Wars. Rusty is the defending champion, and Duck, as a hugely unsuccessful robot previously, manages to get them in the pit. But Duck has not nearly been as dominant as usual, and really their success has been luck. There we go, that's something from the Duck that we know and love. There we go, that's exactly what Duck wanted. See, Duck knows that when Rusty fires their axe, their entire robot bounces up, and that allows their beak to properly wedge up under them, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do that, and that sort of raises them and could possibly get them all the way over so they lose panels like they did just there. Rusty on their last panel, playing slightly more defensively than they did before, wildly flailing their axe whilst in Duck's grasp, which is what lost them their first 2 panels. I don't know what's going on at this point either, I don't remember. Gonna have to unstick. They're gonna have to unstick. Unstick now. There we go. Duck veering left a lot more than they were earlier in the semi-final. Duck very much struggling with their turning issue in this fight. Duck not able to capture their earlier success. Oh, there we go. That's something good. What appears to be going on in this bit is that they're sort of both pinning each other off camera. Rusty's still not learning that flailing their hammer is what gets them killed against Duck. Duck has a hold of Rusty here. They need to be more cautious here. Rusty is caught on Duck's front wedge. Yes! Duck back on form in the final 10 seconds of that fight, putting them on 8 points and leaving Rusty on 3. Next up, our final fight, which is Redshield versus Beta. 3, 2, 1, activate. Okay. Redshield being able to push Beta. Obviously, removing their front panel, very impressive considering they don't have a weapon. Ow. And the second. Beta being quite unresponsive. Circling the pit. Oh! Let's see what that poor performance from Beta has done to the score. So, going from the bottom up, Rusty unfortunately is in last place with only 3 points. Very disappointing from them. And then in 4th we have Beta with 4 points. And the underdogs and only unseeded robot Redshield somehow has 3rd place with 5 points, and the 2 that go to the final is Duck with 8 and Biteforce with 10, although with Biteforce it was kind of obvious. I don't have an outro or credits or anything, so the video's just over now.